First question I have for you today says, my teenage daughter and I haven't been getting along lately. It seems like every conversation we have turns into an argument and I don't know what to do. Where do I go from here?
Yeah, well,
Golly.
For starters.
Been there. Yeah, totally.
I have been there. Yeah, I've been there and will be there again. Right? That's the thing about life is you only get to control you. So you don't get to control whether or not your kids want to talk, like to talk. But the important thing in a relationship is to make sure that you're connected. That's a good point. Yeah, when kids go through those teenage years, my oldest son, Elijah, who you're married to, is 23.
Yep.
Then Riley, my daughter, is 20, I think.
Turning 21.
Yeah, she's turning 21 soon. And then Evan's 18. And then I have the 2-year-old Edie, and then my 7-month-old Liam. And so there's so many different stages that we go through in life. And I can remember when Lige and when Riley and when Evan were in those early teenage years, they're feeling so many things. There's so much pressure from school. There's so much pressure from our world. There's so much pressure just from their inner world that it's very hard for them to process through. Am I pissed off at you? Or am I
can't figure it out myself.
Bad hair day, like literally could throw my daughter off.
Yes.
My son could just feel frustrated because of sports or school or and all of a sudden he's directing that towards me.
Totally.
So what I think is the best in these scenarios is to stop and go, are we connected? Because if you just go, I want you to respect me, or you're disrespecting me, you need to stop that. Or, I'm the adult here and you're the child. Like you better step back. All those power plays end up just hurting you in the long run.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And so rather you can stop and ask the question, are we connected?
Yeah.
Do they know that they're cared for, loved? Do they know that I care more about our relationship than I do about being right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have an active connection, this is for your wife too, or your husband.
Totally.
Rather than trying to solve the financial issue, rather than trying to solve the issue with your kids, rather than trying to, what are we going to eat tonight? If you aren't connected, every conversation that you have from there on,
just painful.
Yeah. Because when you're disconnected, you assume the worst about each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like think about when you're disconnected from Lige.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah. It's really hard to have conversation.
It is. And so we make people that we're not connected with, we make our enemy and we self-protect against them. So with your kids, especially, sometimes it's cool to stop and put this issue that you want to solve, like just put it back here on the shelf and then go work on your connection.
Yeah.
So that could be like go to a movie, take them to dinner, hang out, have fun. And then when you're connected, you can bring up that other thing like, hey, I know that this thing's been coming up a lot with you. Let's talk about it.
Right.
Or, hey, I felt disrespected the other day. I know that's probably wasn't what you were trying to do. How are you doing?
It's a good, really good advice. I could imagine as a parent that could feel, I'm just thinking if this is like a behavioral issue, it's something where you're like, my kid has really acted out. They need some discipline. Are you saying to just pause that, come back to it later? And potentially this teenager thinks, oh, great. I was able to get away with that. I'm going to strike again.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about a culture, right? So I want to make sure that my children know that I care for them. I love them. I'm connected to them. And from a place of connection, then I can return back to that conversation. Yeah. So if you just go straight for the discipline, who cares if you discipline your kids if they don't feel cared for?
It's true.
And who cares if because we always can, right? We can go like, oh, you just lost all of the privileges in your whole entire life. Totally. You don't have a life anymore.
Right.
And John Maxwell says there's different levels of leadership. And the first level is positional. Right? Like Tim, who does our podcast, he will do what I ask him to do because I'm his boss.
Right.
I'm paying the bills.
Right.
So Tim's going to go, all right, yeah, yes. That's one level. And that's not a bad level. That's just a starting point.
Right. Right.
But what I want to get into is that next level, which is permissional, right? Where if I see Tim at the grocery store and he's not on the clock, he wants my input. He wants me around. He wants my advice. Like he wants me as a leader in his life because he believes that I believe in him.
Yeah.
I'm an asset. I'm a benefit to his life. And so, you know, with our kids, a lot of times we have, we rely so much on that positional authority. Totally. Because I said so.
Yep.
Because that's what God said. Because it's a sin. Instead of from this place of permissional, which isn't, I'm trying to be your best friend.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to be my kid's best friend.
Yeah.
But I don't have to cave my morals and values in order to connect.
Yeah, that's really good. And to feel cared for. I'm like, I think about the moments, obviously I don't have kids. So I'm like thinking about my own personal journey with my parents and being disciplined. And I think about the moments that I look back and I go, wow, my heart really shifted in that moment. I was really impacted by the way they handled that moment. It was moments that they came in and they sought to my heart. They weren't just figuring out my behavior. It was like, what's going on with you? What's happening with you?
Yeah.
Where I feel way more connected. And then later, obviously we can dialogue about what choices I'm making in my life.
Yeah.
But it's that heart connection because you feel cared for. You're way more willing to let people speak into your life if you feel cared for.
I remember when the kids were young and we had, of course, gone through the divorce and all that hard stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was like just having so much struggle with the kids, you know, whether it was acting out or there was just a lot of pain, right?
Yeah.
And I called Danny one time, Danny Silk, and I was just wanting to get some advice on like, Elijah's doing this thing or Riley's doing this thing. And like, I'm trying to correct them. And he said, hey, I don't know that they can hear you in the heat of the battle.
Yeah. Wow.
Like I'm sitting them down trying to like lecture them, you know, and they're just like, they're so emotional. They're in so much pain. Like they can't hear what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And so I remember having to go through like, okay, to assess, can they even hear me right now?
Yeah.
Like when my daughter Edie is having a meltdown and I'm trying to lecture her about her meltdown, like she can't hear me.
No.
And so again, like there's so much pressure for us to like, I will be respected or I will get this message to you instead of taking a step back and going, well, what's the most effective thing to do right now?
Yeah, totally.
De-escalate, reconnect, and then deliver the message in a way that feels loving and caring.
Totally. Which can be so hard. Now I'm totally shifting it a little bit, but I'm thinking about specifically in marriage. Yeah. Like I think about just a bit ago, I was out of town and there was a conflict that occurred between Elijah and I.
Over the phone.
Yeah. Which is so challenging. We know that's really hard.
Whose fault was it? That's all we care about. No. You know what I mean?
No. But I remember like just feeling so frustrated and communicating. Like I'm leaving this conversation so mad. Okay, now you're calling me back. Now I'm on the phone with you again. So mad, so frustrated, not feeling heard. You're not feeling heard. And eventually I just felt like I had to be Holy Spirit because I was like going to, debate my case for the whole night. And I felt the Holy Spirit say, Elijah doesn't need to hear you in your case right now. He needs to feel like you're trying to seek to understand him. And so I just had to stop, which is really hard. And I had to just humble myself and be like, oh my gosh, Elijah actually has had a whirlwind of a weekend and he just needs me to try to seek to understand. And I remember later on, obviously I came home a couple of days later and began to be able to tell him how that really made me feel again. And it was interesting because even the moment he said, well, it just makes me feel like you're not hearing me. I said, that's exactly how I felt. But you just needed to know that I was trying to understand, right? Yeah. I just need you to know that, I just need to know that you're trying to understand. Yeah. It's just like all that high emotion and chaos of the moment can be so settled when you just like, I'm just seeking to understand.
It's massive.
Humbling, very humbling.
It's massive because in any conversation that we have, there has to be a talker and there has to be a listener.
Mm-hmm.
There can't be a talker and then somebody doing rebuttals in their mind.
Yeah. Oh.
And if you have a relationship where you aren't seeking to understand, then the whole relationship is based upon self-protection.
Mm-hmm.
And it never works.
It's not fun.
It's impossible to make that work because there's no way that I can protect me from you
and still let you in
and be close and find a win-win and all that.